Dear Army, do we understand the true purpose of why we actually have a fitness test in general? Let's talk about that right here and why this is actually probably one of the most deadly things that we could ever actually consider doing, of not requiring it to be passed before finishing boot camp. Stay tuned to find out. What is up, guys? You're tuning in to NickyMGTV for another video. As always, you can hit me up on Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, or down in the comments below if you do have questions. Also, make sure you guys are liking, subscribing, notification bell, all that. Jeez, I feel like I'm broken record here just doing the same intro. I can do it all the time, but that's okay. But looking at that, I want to give some credit to somebody that made the most epic rant against this, AC for short, also known as Angry Cops. He did have a lot of good points, but there are some that I wanted to add on to that I think were very important, that were maybe missed, and that is the route at which we have any of these fitness tests. Why do we have them? So let's look at a little background of this story. So what it looks like is the Army has not required the Army Combat Fitness Test, which starting October 1st was going to be the thing that they were going to roll out. They were getting rid of their 2-mile run, their push-ups and sit-ups, similar to how the Air Force and Navy were doing it. Now they have this blended combat fitness test, Army Combat Fitness Test. If you want to check it out, the full run-through, you can watch Austin Alexander. He just tried that as well. And you can see all the different stages, all the leg pull-ups, the sprints they have to do, the 2-mile run, the throw the ball, all this other stuff. Very entertaining. But looking at it, what I want to get into is, now that this is required, they're not going to have it count against soldiers until 2022. Now, this is where I think an explanation needs to come into play, because that is fiscal year 2022, okay? I'm not sure exactly the timeline of how Army splits their fitness tests up. Navy, we do it where it is 6 months from January to June, then July to December. That's your fitness periods. So fiscal year 2022 starts October of 2021. Okay, so that way we understand they could still be made to run it or pass it within the October to December timeframe. If someone has more clarification on that, I've not found anything. So yes, the number is 2022, but maybe not as scary as we think. But it does look like we're having 1 year of no requirements to pass the Army Combat Fitness Test. What does that mean for the Army? Cool, you get out of it for a year, but also on top of that, COVID, right? COVID changed a lot of things for us. We were out of 2 fitness tests for the Navy. So looking at the Army in this, I look back at it and say, why do we actually do these fitness tests? What is the purpose of it? A lot of people are going to be like, because it's just another requirement and get people out, and the tests aren't really that hard. I would agree on some of that, right? But I also want to say, the root of it is to make sure you are actually ready to perform the job at which you're required to do. And this is where Angry Cops was correct, where he said, yes, the people coming out of boot camp have no baseline to judge themselves against. Also, many of these people are 18 to 22 years old coming into the military. They probably have the least likely issue of having to ensure that they are passing it. Now, when I look at this too, it's like, if you want to keep the standard up there or raise it up, and that's what you're doing with this test, why not just be like, nah, conform to us, that's it. I understand having like a 1 buffer for the people that are already in the Army, that are having done, only a couple practice maybe. I'm sure they're actually doing more of that per their command. But looking at that, I just have to ask, that makes sense. The boot camp one does not make sense, because these are recruits. They are going to adjust and do what you can, or do what they will, after they are told what the standard is, because a lot of them came in and haven't even ran. If anyone's been a drill sergeant, drill instructor, recruit division commander, any of that stuff, they'll tell you some of these kids have never even ran a 1/4 mile before, or have no idea actually how to run. So we're already in a negative deficiency with that. So just put the bar there and let it be. Especially when you look at the Marine Corps, I would say a lot of their tests are harder than this ACFT, in my opinion. Looking at it, I'm saying just make it the standard. Now the next thing I want to go into is the root purpose of this, because if you have somebody that does go through the Army basic training and they don't have to pass it to leave Army basic training, what does that then echo forward as far as issues that you're going to see? Now you've technically passed the buck on to the AIT possibly at that point, depending on when they enter boot camp and they do that. So now the AIT, which is pretty much herding sheep, their A score, their basic job training, they're going to have to get them fit. When their job, they're like, we should already have a product that knows how to pass the fitness test, which they can now lose numbers because of that. Now they're going to have to catch up on that and make some changes to now take away from training time for the actual job. That's the way I look at that. Then on top of that, depending on when they are actually entering basic training, if it's beginning of this fiscal year and they're not going to pass it, for example, say they end up through their basic AIT training for their job and say they don't have to pass it this year, right? Then they roll on to their first command. Now you're passing the buck on 2 commands later to get them to pass. Because at that point, you're like, I have a guy that is a truck mechanic or medic or cook, whatever they are. I need them to go do that job. In boot camp, your job is limited. Be physically fit, learn about the Army, wear the uniform. That's it. That's where that has to happen. That's where that fundamental thing occurs. Let's look at the big picture of this, not only to the first command, but to the true readiness of a deployed force. If you guys don't know, a lot of the branches do kick people out for not being physically fit. And that includes being able to pass this based on weight and tape and also on the physical actual passing of the test itself. Because it is a force shaping tool as well to make sure that people are slim and represent the military and all that. That's part of it too. But also the deployed part of it. They spent how many, I would like to say millions, to get this ready for people to deploy. And now they're sending people that aren't even passing it to go deploy, because technically, as long as they're medically sound, they're going to deploy. Now, put that person in a combat zone, put that person in the field to go do something, get shot at, and now the person that which you simulated in your Army combat fitness test, from the ground, stand up, sprint, go grab something, pull it. That's similar to going to go grab ammunition cans, things like that. Those things that they should be tested on in peacetime, in garrison, are being tested on the combat field. Do you see how that could actually impact lives, puts them at danger, puts their buddies at danger, puts the fight at danger? I'm looking at the big picture of this, and I'm just trying to understand the thought process of giving people from boot camp this pass. I personally, in my opinion, don't see that, but I know there's a lot of people that do have a lot of uproar about this, because I like to look at the macro perspective of this, and I'd love to know what you guys think about this. I know I have a lot of veterans out there. I've seen in the comments are very upset about this as well, and you guys coming in, what do you think if you're going to Army boot camp? Do you think that it should be a requirement to pass? What are your thoughts on it, especially because you guys are the ones that are probably the most affected by this, and are going to probably get some of the most shit for this as you arrive to your AIT training and also arrive to your first command. So definitely keep that in mind. But as always, if you guys do have questions about this or anything else, you can always hit me up on Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, or down in the comments below. Love you guys. I'll see you next time.